Before we begin, ensure your clearance is valid. Subscribe to Project Echo to maintain access to classified maritime anomalies and all future declassified naval incidents suppressed by federal directive. Operation Pale Harbor refers to a maritime event officially logged on May 4, 1993, an event in which a 312-foot cargo vessel, the MV Calderón Star, entered the docking channel of Harwich Port entirely under its own power, slowing, aligning, and mooring itself with flawless precision. The ship did this without a single crew member visible on deck. At 6:14 a.m., Harbor Control reported an unidentified vessel approaching from the northwest, moving at a steady 11 knots. No distress signals, no radio contact, no eyes identification, a rarity, even in the early 90s. Dockworkers preparing for morning offloading paused as the ship neared. Several reported the same sensation, a hollow quiet, as if the vessel absorbed sound rather than produced it. Fog hung low around the hull, though no fog was reported elsewhere along the coast. Visibility within the fog was described as the color of bone. As the ship entered the harbor mouth, its engines rumbled with mechanical regularity, yet no silhouette passed behind the bridge glass. No hands turned the wheel. No shadows moved across deck. A tugboat captain boarded his vessel to intercept, expecting a communication failure or medical emergency. Before he could start the engine, the cargo ship altered course on its own, correcting alignment with uncanny smoothness. By Shamwaludan Arshararfin, the Calderón Star reduced its speed to 4 knots and drifted into its slip. The mooring ropes untouched, yet dropping perfectly into place as if guided. 2 dockworkers attempted to hail the ship via loudspeaker. No reply, not even static. When they climbed aboard, the first thing they noticed was the temperature, nearly 10 degrees colder than the ambient morning air. The second thing they noticed was the silence. Not the absence of noise, the muting of it. Footsteps felt muffled. Voices fell flat. The air carried no echo. This was the first recorded anomaly. The second came moments later, when the 2 dockworkers reached the main deck. There were no crew, not one. Life rings hung neatly in place. Safety lines retracted, tools stored properly. Nothing was overturned or broken. No signs of panic, evacuation, or mutiny. A half-filled coffee mug sat on the bridge console. Still warm, as a pencil rested on a chart, its point marking the ship's position precisely. A pair of reading glasses lay folded beside the throttle, yet not a single person was aboard to use them. The radio receiver remained powered but emitted no static, just a faint rhythmic clicking, repeating every 9 seconds. This clicking pattern would later be identified as the ship's last recorded anomaly. Dock authorities ordered a full search. Within minutes, more than 20 personnel spread across the deck, calling out, opening hatches, checking cabins. The ship felt wrong underfoot. Metallic surfaces vibrated faintly, not from engine noise, but from something deeper, like the residual hum of a completed transmission. The crew quarters were immaculate. Beds made, personal belongings arranged, clothing folded. In the galley, breakfast ingredients had been laid out as if someone intended to cook a meal. A skillet on the stove was still lightly warm. A pot of water set on the counter. Ripples pulsed across the surface evenly, rhythmically, as if vibrating to a distant signal. Down in the engine room, gauges showed normal operation. Fuel levels steady. No alarms. No mechanical failures. The ship was alive, functioning, maintained, but empty. At 7:03 a.m., the first distress call was made to the Coast Guard. We have a ghost ship in dock, and something is wrong with the air. Federal units were dispatched within minutes, responding under a maritime emergency clause reserved for incidents involving hazardous or anomalous conditions. When government personnel arrived, the dock workers were confined, questioned, and instructed not to discuss what they had seen. Statements were taken, reports filed. All preliminary documentation would be classified within 48 hours. A boarding team of 8 federal agents entered the ship at 7:28 a.m. Their body cameras captured the next 3 minutes of footage. The rest was corrupted. The footage shows the agents moving through lower hallways. Every time one speaks, the audio dips, not static, but suppression, as if something is compressing the frequencies around human speech. At 7:30 a.m., the last clear frame shows an agent opening the door to cabin 12. He shines a flashlight inside. The beam starts normally bright, diffused, then narrows sharply, as if the air itself is thickening. The agent says, "What the hell is that?" before the video cuts to black. The blackout lasts 7 seconds. When the feed returns, all 8 agents are gone. Their equipment lies scattered across the corridor floor: radios, gloves, 1 boot, but not a single human remains. The only sound on the recovered audio is the faint clicking, repeating every 9 seconds. This was the 3rd anomaly. By Shalmabad, the Calderón Star was sealed from the public. Armed units formed a perimeter along the dock. Nearby streets were blocked. A mobile command center was established. Lead analyst Dr. Arthur Renner was placed in charge of what would become Operation Pale Harbor. Renner ordered a remote scan of the vessel before sending another team aboard. Thermal imaging produced results that confused technicians. The ship was cold, uniformly colder than the surrounding air. Yet its engine room radiated a faint heat signature, as if the metal were exhaling warmth. More troubling was the heartbeat pattern. A slow, rhythmic pulse emanated from deep within the hull. Not mechanical, not structural, but biological. The pulse matched the frequency of the clicking sound captured earlier. At 8:17 a.m., Renner authorized a second boarding team, this time with acoustic dampeners, respirators, and tether lines. 4 agents stepped aboard. Their footsteps echoed faintly, as if heard from underwater. The air felt thicker, metallic, difficult to breathe. In the bridge, the coffee mug had cooled. The pencil lay untouched. The ripple pattern in the pot of water had stopped. But now another anomaly emerged. Condensation formed on the windows despite the rising temperature outside. One agent approached the glass. Before he could touch it, a thin layer of frost bloomed outward from the center, forming a pattern resembling branching veins. Moments later, the frost retreated, evaporating, as if inhaled back into the ship. The agent whispered, "It's breathing." They proceeded deeper into the vessel. In the engine room, the machinery hummed steadily, but monitors showed no fuel burn. The engine was running without consuming diesel. One agent tapped a metal pipe. The ship responded. A pulse, faint but deliberate, echoed back. Acoustic analysis later showed the return pulse was not a vibration but a patterned response, as if acknowledging stimulus. As the team progressed, a faint odor became noticeable, not rot, not chemicals, something metallic, like the scent inside a sealed shipping container opened after years. Cabin 12, the location of the corrupted footage, was next. The door was locked from the inside. An agent forced it open. The moment the door gave way, the lights flickered. Inside the cabin were signs of rapid evaporation, dampness on surfaces, a haze in the air, and personal belongings frozen in mid-motion, as if disturbed seconds earlier. A journal lay on the bunk. The last written line read, "Something is in the walls." The agent reached for the journal. Before his fingers touched it, the pages curled inward, aging decades in seconds, turning 2 brittle yellow curls. The ship groaned, not creaked, groaned, the sound of metal plates shifting under compressive force. Agent audio recorded one word whispered among the groaning metal. Below, the team descended to the cargo hold. The temperature dropped sharply. Frost coated the interior walls of the hold, not surface frost, but crystallized patterns resembling branching coral. Cargo containers stood perfectly aligned, all sealed, all unmarked. A faint clicking echoed inside the hold, repeating every 9 seconds. As the team advanced, the clicking intensified, no longer distant, but surrounding them. One agent reported hearing the clicking from inside his own skull. Another claimed the metal floor felt soft, as if not entirely solid anymore. They reached Container 7. Its surface was warm. The clicking stopped, and something inside the container scraped against the metal once, then twice, slow, deliberate, answering. The agents froze. The scrape echoed through the cargo hold as if the metal itself were amplifying it. The sound traveled up the beams, through the container walls, rolling across the ceiling like something enormous shifting its weight. Agent Morales stepped forward cautiously and placed a gloved hand on the surface of Container 7. The moment he touched it, the metal pulsed beneath his fingers, expanding outward, then constricting, like the contraction of a diaphragm. He jerked his hand back instantly. "It's alive," he whispered. The microphone picked up a tremor in his voice. The cargo hold lights flickered again. The frost patterns on the walls brightened, responding to the pulse, glowing faintly like bioluminescence. Dr. Renner, monitoring from the command center, ordered the team to retreat. But before the command reached them, the ship itself intervened. The floor vibrated sharply, a jolt so strong that one agent fell to his knees. A deep metallic groan resonated through the hull, followed by a sharp exhalation sound, as if the ship were releasing pressure. From inside Container 7 came 3 knocks, rhythmic, intentional. Answering the vibration, Morales radioed in. "There's someone inside." But the thermal scan, pulled up instantly on the command center screen, showed nothing. Not heat, not movement, not even mass. The container appeared empty. Renner responded. "The container is registering hollow. Do not open it." But the container disagreed. The metal began to expand outward, slowly, as though pushed from within by something shapeless yet powerful. 15 seconds later, the expansion reversed and snapped inward, concaving sharply before stabilizing. One of the agents screamed, not from the sound, from what he claimed he saw in the metal surface. His reflection, distorted, with empty black sockets where his eyes should have been. The ship shuddered again. This time, the vibration rippled through the entire hull, knocking loose rust flakes, shaking overhead beams, threatening structural failure. Dr. Renner ordered a full evacuation. "Pull him out now," he shouted into the comms. But by the time the command reached the team, the cargo bay doors had already begun closing, not electronically, but mechanically, grinding shut as though driven by unseen force. Agents scrambled toward the exit ladder. The lights flickered into darkness. For 8 full seconds, the body cameras recorded nothing but blackness and the sound of rapid breathing. When the emergency lighting recovered, the team had split, 2 agents pinned behind a fallen beam, 2 closer to the exit. Morales attempted to lift the beam, but it was fused to the floor with a thick crystalline residue. Like salt, hardened under extreme pressure. The clicking sound returned louder now, echoing inside the hold from every direction, overlapping and multiplying as if more than one source were producing it. One pinned agent clutched his head and screamed that the clicking wasn't sound anymore, it's words. It's trying to talk. Suddenly, all clicking ceased. A low-frequency hum replaced it. The hum resonated deep within the hull, vibrating the ribs of the ship like a tuning fork. The residue coating the beam began to soften and crack, not melting, but breaking apart in fractal patterns. Dr. Renner yelled again for extraction teams. Ropes were lowered through the hatch as the 2 unpinned agents scrambled upward. Morales reached the ladder first, pulling himself up. Before the others could follow, the hum changed pitch, rising sharply, rapidly, impossibly fast. The crystalline residue liquefied into a thin film that began crawling across the floor like mercury. It spread toward the pinned agents. They screamed for help. One reached out toward Morales with a trembling, frostbitten hand. Morales grabbed his wrist instinctively, then recoiled in horror. The agent's skin had turned cold and waxy, his veins visible beneath the surface like branching blue cracks. The film crawled up his legs, solidifying instantly into a brittle shell. The agent's breath fogged in the air. He whispered, "Don't let it touch you." Then his body seized. Morales and the last remaining agent scrambled up the ladder, screaming for the hatch to be closed. Extraction teams pulled them out just as the crystalline film surged upward like a wave trying to escape the hold. The hatch slammed shut. Metal locks engaged. The surge collided with the sealed door, cracking it outward before subsiding. Both rescued agents collapsed on the dock, shaking violently. Morales vomited, unable to speak. The surviving agent stared blankly at the water, mumbling, "The ship saw us. It knows we're here." Inside the ship, the hum quieted, the lights stabilized, and from deep inside the hull came a new sound. A single, slow inhale. Renner stood frozen. For the first time in any recorded operation under his command, he hesitated. The inhalation sound was unmistakable, long, deep, and organic. Something inside the hull had taken a breath. He demanded a full thermal sweep. The results, however, were useless. The entire ship was registering as a uniform body temperature, as if the hull, decks, cargo, and internal superstructure had fused into a single living mass. A junior technician whispered, "It's not a ship anymore." Renner didn't respond. At 9:01 a.m., the grounded agents were rushed into decontamination. Their skin temperature remained dangerously low. Morales' fingerprints were unreadable. The ridges had faded, smoothed over like polished stone. The pinned agents were presumed dead. Extraction was deemed too dangerous due to the spreading crystalline contamination. Meanwhile, the ship emitted another breath, this time shorter, as though adjusting. Acoustic sensors detected faint internal motion, something moving through the bulkheads, not walking but flowing, distributing weight across unnatural pathways. Dr. Renner theorized that the clicking pattern was not communication, but echolocation, the ship mapping its surroundings after awakening alone. If correct, the crew may have triggered the awakening unintentionally, or worse, been consumed in the process. At 9:07 a.m., a dock worker outside the perimeter pointed to the bow and shouted. Personnel raised binoculars. Frost was forming across the exterior hull, racing outward in large branching networks. The frost moved with direction, as if tracing arteries. The hull groaned. The frost pulsed. On the lower deck, condensation dripped in steady intervals, forming puddles that rippled without disturbance. The ripples repeated in cycles of 9 seconds, a perfect match to the clicking rhythm. Renner ordered the dock evacuated to 200 meters, but it was already too late. A large section of hull plating buckled outward with a thunderous crack. Personnel ducked for cover. Dock debris flew. The warped metal finally stabilized, forming a concave depression that pulsed like an inhaling lung. When the dust settled, everyone stared in disbelief. The hull was moving, slowly, rhythmically, breathing inside the hold. The crystalline film surged again, this time upward through the deck grates, seeking air. The ship exhaled. A mist poured from its vents, freezing cold, drifting across the dock like a thin, searching fog. Within the mist, faint clicking sounded again. Only this time, it was answering something from beneath the water. The clicking beneath the waterline intensified, vibrating through the pilings of the dock. Several personnel reported the sensation of their bones shaking, describing the sound as internal rather than external. Renner ordered all teams to fall back. The mist creeping across the dock was dropping temperatures at a measurable rate, nearly 2 degrees per second. Frost spread across boots, equipment, the concrete itself. An agent slipped on the forming ice and screamed as frostbite consumed her leg within seconds. She was dragged back just before the mist enveloped her completely. The ship continued exhaling each breath deeper, more forceful, more certain. Then came the sound no one could explain, a distant answer. A clicking reply from somewhere beneath the waves. Harbor sonar detected something massive moving under the vessel. Not a submarine, not an animal. Something without a definable shape, a shifting, pulsating mass reflecting signals irregularly, like the ocean itself was responding. The water surrounding the Calderón Star began bubbling violently, but thermal sensors showed the water temperature dropping, not rising. The ship groaned, this time louder, bending its own frame. The ribs of the hull flexed outward, as if reaching toward the source of the clicking beneath. Frost spread across the hull, tracing branching patterns similar to deep-sea coral. The patterns pulsed faintly with each clicking response. The mist thickened, creeping into the air like a slow, intelligent tide. Personnel were forced back another 100 meters as visibility dropped. The fog swallowed the lower hull, rising toward the deck like a living veil. Inside the fog, shadows appeared, vague silhouettes moving across the ship's surface, shifting in ways that defied anatomy. One figure appeared human for a moment, before splitting like a reflection in disturbed water. Dr. Renner attempted contact via loudspeaker, shouting, "If anyone is on board, respond." A shadow at the bow lifted its head, not with human motion, but like something testing a new articulation. Then it dissolved back into the mist. The clicking beneath the ship accelerated. With each pulse, the hull dented inward or outward as though speaking in a physical language. A sudden shock wave burst through the dock. Personnel fell to their knees. Several lost consciousness. One agent later claimed he saw letters forming in the mist, shapes he could not recognize but felt he somehow understood. The crystalline residue reappeared now, spreading from the hull to the dock supports, crawling like frost with purpose. A siren sounded not from human equipment, but from the ship itself. A long, low wail, harmonically perfect, resonating with the clicking. A call, an invitation, or a warning. Sonar reported movement again. The mass beneath the water was rising. It reached the ship's keel. The Calderón Star shifted upward unnaturally, buoyancy impossible at that scale. Water sloshed outward from the hull like something massive had nudged it from below. A metallic scream tore through the air as the hull bent, flexing around the unseen force. Renner shouted for full retreat. Armed teams sprinted for the evacuation line. The fog surged after them like a wave of cold breath. One agent looked back and froze mid-stride. Frost engulfed him from the knees up, crawling rapidly. His scream cut off as the frost reached his throat. His body toppled over, shattering like brittle glass. Renner stared in horror. "We are abandoning the dock," he said into the radio. "Fall back to secondary perimeter." A final exhalation from the ship sent a rolling fog wall across the pier, coating wood, steel, and water in an ice sheath. The water beneath the bow bulged upward, something rising beneath. But then, the clicking stopped. All at once, the fog dissipated. The temperature stabilized. The frost halted, it spread. Whatever stirred beneath the ship retreated with surprising speed, vanishing into the deep with no recorded sonar trace. The hull stilled. The groaning stopped. The crystalline patterns faded. The Calderón Star fell silent. And then, impossibly, the ship began to sink. The sinking was rapid, far too rapid for a structurally intact cargo vessel. Within minutes, the hull dipped beneath the surface, pulled downward rather than collapsing inward. The water around the ship frothed violently. Bubbles rose in enormous volumes, as though something immense was dragging the vessel by its keel. Emergency teams attempted to stabilize the ship with tow cables, but every cable snapped with explosive force. Renner ordered all personnel to retreat to high ground. Observers watched from a safe distance as the bow tilted sharply forward. One final groan echoed across the harbor, a long, low lament, almost organic, before the Calderón Star vanished beneath the waterline, leaving only spiraling frost on the surface. The frost melted within seconds, leaving no trace the ship had ever been there. Divers were deployed. They found nothing. No wreck, no debris, no sediment disturbance. The seafloor was smooth. It was as if the Calderón Star had never existed. The bodies of the missing crew were never recovered. The pinned agents remained unaccounted for. The families of all personnel involved received non-disclosure agreements under maritime security law. Harwich Port was closed for renovations the following week. It reopened 2 months later under a different name. Dr. Renner resigned shortly after. His final note to the directorate stated, "The ship left because what it called never arrived, but it will. And next time, it won't come alone." Acoustic monitoring stations along the northeast coast detected faint clicking patterns over the next 12 months. Each pattern repeated every 9 seconds. No vessel was detected. No origin was located. Oceanographers assumed equipment malfunction. Project Echo did not. Internal documents warn, if a vessel docks without crew, assume it is not empty. A final audio file, time-stamped 7 months after the incident, contains one chilling anomaly, a long exhalation followed by a faint rhythmic click. Analysts concluded the sound did not come from a ship. It came from something deeper, something older, something waiting. This concludes Restricted Archive OP-47, Operation Pale Harbor. If you observe rhythmic clicking near harbors, docks, or shorelines, leave immediately. It is not meant for human ears.